Audio on. I might just kick us off and give us the Birchal introduction. And anyone who comes a little bit late, they'll just miss my part, not the more interesting part. So good outcome for everyone. So hello, welcome to today's webinar with the goodMix team. I'm Kirsten Hunter. I'm the CEO here at Birchal. And just before I introduce the team, I'd like to start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land that I'm calling to you from today. Birchal is based on the lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin nation, and I'd like to offer my respects to their elders, past and present. So today we are joined by the team from goodMix, and Birchal is working with goodMix on an upcoming crowdsource funding offer. For those of you who might not know what crowdsource funding is, you might have not heard of this as equity crowdfunding. It's a form of fundraising in Australia that allows startups, small and growing businesses to raise capital from a large number of smaller or retail investors, as well as wholesale and sophisticated investors through an online platform like Birchal. So instead of seeking funding from traditional sources such as banks, venture capitalists, or private equity, it means that companies can turn to the general public, oftentimes their communities, to raise money in exchange for equity in their businesses. So for founders, this is a way to turn their passionate supporters into shareholders. For investors, it's a way to back founders and ideas that you want to see succeed, and when they do, you get a slice of the success. Birchal Financial Services will be the licensed intermediary for the offer. The information and discussion in this webinar is for informational purposes only and shouldn't be considered as advice or a recommendation to invest. Please do your own research and always consider the general CSF risk warning before investing. More information on both of those things can be found at our website, birchal.com. How today's session is going to run. So I'm going to introduce you to Brad, who will introduce you to the rest of the team. Rather than doing a formal presentation today, we're going to run through a series of questions. So if any of you on the call have questions that you'd like to ask to the team, if you hover your cursor over the bottom part of the Zoom window, you'll get a little Q&A box. And so you can just drop your questions in there at any time. If any of you did miss the earlier webinar that we did with the team, which was much more of a kind of traditional presentation style approach, that recording of that webinar is available on the goodMix profile page on the Birchal website. So if you're having trouble finding it, just drop us an email and we can send it through to you. Today's session will be recorded as well, so if you do have to drop off early, you'll be able to get a copy of the rest of the discussion after we finish up for today. So without further ado, Brad, let me kick it over to you to introduce yourself and the team.
Thank you, Kirsten, and thanks everyone who has joined us, including my team. Like Kirsten said, we really want to open up to Q&A. I can imagine that if you're one of our fans or customers, you probably had an email or two or three from Howard and a couple from me and maybe a text message. And that's really just to make sure, everyone, understood this process. Obviously a lot of mums and dads, but also thank you to all the investors that have given us their excellent questions. And I think within the offer document, within the webinar, all the high level numbers, everything you need to know on that is there and available, and hopefully you have some questions around that or specific questions of any one of the team members. I know Kirsten's probably going to open up with a few questions. So one person that wasn't in the original email is actually our founder, the Jeannie. So Jeannie's naturopath, the original and the only maker of all the products as far as the recipes, and really good to have her on this time. And I might hand it over to her first. She's been on the front line with me at the markets. We've been doing this for 14 years, and there hasn't been many weekends where either one of us haven't been at a market, and getting the great feedback, particularly on Blend 11, and that's where it all started. So without taking any of Jeannie's thunder, let's hand it over to you, Jeannie.
Welcome, guys. Hey, thanks for coming. Nice to have everyone on board. I guess I'm humbled to think that people might be interested in joining us on this journey. It's come a long way since the plastic bag and the rubber bands. That's how we started. No label, no branding, no nothing. I'm not sure if anyone's been around since those days, but we've kind of learnt a lot along the way, and we've gathered the help that we've needed along the way. The right person always has arrived at the right time for us, and some of you guys might be those next right people. I guess yeah, I'm more interested in what the questions are. So yeah, basically the whole thing, in my mind, the whole thing is a little bit of an accident, as some of the best things are. Blend 11 just started out as something I wanted to eat for myself for breakfast and feed to my kids, like the healthiest possible, instead of cereal. And obviously all the feedback kept coming in, which prompted us to get it tested by Monash. The grant came in to get it tested through the CSIRO gut research team. So all that's beautiful validation for all of the, the anecdotal evidence we have that it helps people with their poo problems. As a naturopath, we focus a lot on poo. We're crazy poo people. Is super important. It sounds like a crazy thing to focus on, but it's, if your poo problems are present, it can be overwhelming in life. And if poo problems are there, nothing else works well. And conversely, if you can do something that helps a little bit with your gut health, then that can pretty much everything else. So I feel like if you got something you can eat like cereal that can make such a change as Blend 11 has done, continues to do, it's a pretty good, easy thing for people to do. And I think that's why we've largely been successful in growing the business through markets and then, stores. It's all kind of happened a bit organically, but I think we're at the stage now where it's go time, and we've got the help on board, and we've done all the hard yards, and it's pretty much ready to scale. But I'm more interested in questions from everybody else.
Yeah.
Sorry, before you do, Jeannie, I might just intro the other two quickly, because and Kirsten, if you've got some questions from Jeannie, because I think you're going to jump in there. I'm going to hand it over to Brett first. Brett's actually been with us nearly for the entirety of the 14 years. He had a gap year or two, but he also has a great story, him personally, with the products. And as hard as business is, it's something there that he's very passionate about, and he's actually been probably our key person of influence, for a very, very long time now. Over to you, Brett.
Thanks, Brad. Okay, so if I send you guys an email, it'll say General Manager. Heavy on the general. My day consists of anything from fixing a link on the website that doesn't work, to trying to get someone to pay their bill, to helping the team look for an ingredient that we're having trouble getting, to lots of different things at the warehouse. So general manager. I think I've been, it's close enough to 10 years with a gap in the middle. And I actually came to goodMix in response to a job without knowing the product. And I myself have ulcerative colitis, which Blend 11 helps immensely. So, the stars definitely aligned then, because over the years, I've actually reduced the medication that I take for ulcerative colitis, and that's because I have Blend 11 every day. So, hand on heart, the product has helped me, which is great, because it keeps me passionate in the fact that can be the same for other people.
Yeah, thanks, Brett. And I could feel that, very heartfelt. So glad and so proud that that's helped and you've been a part of the journey. Howard's actually the exciting new hire. He's been almost a year with us now, and had comes from a significant sort of corporate background and experience with small business in our fast moving consumer goods space. Worked for some very high profile companies over the years, and when I first saw his resume, I said, this can't be true, and there's no way we're going to get a hire like this guy. And I went down a talent quest back and forward, and met him. He was just very humble, and I thought, I've got to check this guy out. Something's not right. He doesn't seem like this pushy sales guy, and he seems to really care about the company and people's health. And I rang Blackmore's, his previous employer, and pretty much I said, if he's available and work it again, then maybe he can come back here. So that's a very high level, short answer that I got, but I had a very good conversation, and we're very proud to have Howard leading the growth story of the business and sales. And so over to you, Howard.
I think following on from Brett, really, the brand is amazing. That's what appealed to me. I think Brad and Jeannie's passion, and the whole story behind the brand. It's a business with a higher purpose than just creating profit and doing good in the world. And it's changed the lives of many people. That's what appealed to me. But I spent a couple of minutes really at the stall in Noosa where Brad was working when I first met him, and just seeing people come up to the stall, listening to their stories, seeing what a big impact the brand had made for them, and seeing how much passion and energy was behind the brands, what appealed to me. And haven't looked back. It's an amazing brand, amazing prospects, and it's great to be doing this cap raise and being able to welcome in new investment for the first time in the company's history.
Thanks, Howard. I think I'll hand it back to you, Kirsten, if you've got some questions, and just everyone else, get your questions in.
Yeah, absolutely. So just a reminder, if you sort of hover your mouse down the bottom here in the Zoom window, you'll see that Q&A box. So just drop your questions in there and I'll be able to ask them to the team. But I'd love to start off with some of my questions. I always love hearing stories like what you just shared then, Jeannie, of founders who have kind of almost stumbled upon this business opportunity. They've built a product for themselves or someone who they know to solve a problem that they have, and then sort of discovered that that problem wasn't unique to them, that actually there was a lot more people who could be served and helped by the customers, and the business kind of grows organically from there. So I wonder if you can share a little bit more about those early signals that that this blend that you'd made for you and your family wasn't just something that was going to live in your kitchen and nowhere else. How did you know that other people wanted to buy this product as well, and how did you expand out from there?
Okay, so originally we ran out of stock in the health food store I was working in. So we just had an empty bulk food, the Scoopy bins. One of them was empty. And so I thought, yes, I'm going to fill it with something that's actually proper healthy instead of pretend healthy, like most of the other, pretend healthy mueslis were at the time. So I asked the boss, said, hey, can I make, a better one? And he said, yep. So weighed everything up, figured out the ratios and put it in there. And I was like, oh, it's a bit seedy. I'm going to soak this overnight. Like, I'm going to be soaking this for better digestion, absorption, activating, all that sort of stuff. And I was just telling all the customers, make sure you do that. Soak it overnight, put it with your yogurt. And then quite a few people came in and said, they'd say to me, this stuff's amazing. I've never been regular in my life. And now I'm like, I used to poo every 2 weeks and now I'm pooing, twice a day. And I know, like, from working in health food stores, one of the most, the things that people come back religiously for, one of those things is things to help them poo. And so I was kind of like, oh, okay, that's good. It's getting a great result there. And I don't know, breakfast. People tend to stick on the same breakfast. It's like, I do, definitely. And I know that people, like, you'll alternate your dinners, your lunches and breakfasts, and breakfast you get stuck on and you kind of stick to the same one. So it's a bit of a pattern. So I knew that. And then Brad had the entrepreneurial brain. He was kind of like, oh, if this is getting such good feedback and it's your product, this is a business. And I was like, I don't know about that. But anyway, he kind of pushed and drove the whole thing. We ended up in the markets. One market turned into two. We quickly figured out, oh, we can do double. And then we ended up just getting so many people saying, where can I get this? I'm going on holidays. We had one lady, I remember in the early days, she rang up and she was almost in tears saying, this is the only thing that's ever helped me. I'm just about to go away to Thailand. Can I take it with me? Like, she was like, literally like, I want to go away on this trip, but I don't want to stop taking this stuff that's fixed my poo problem. So things like that. And one of the girls that I studied natural therapies with, she was like, man, I've tried everything. I've tried prunes, I've tried flaxseed, I've tried psyllium, I've tried all the things. This stuff helps me way better. And she knows all the stuff about poo problems. So so I figured out pretty quickly that it was a fairly potent thing. So I ended up getting it tested for the FODMAPs, which was obviously to find more of those people with IBS. So that kind of gave it a bit of a bit more validity with other practitioners, even with doctors. Like now, we have naturopaths, dietitians, nutritionists, personal trainers, doctors, gastros, nurses, recommendations from all of those different modalities. And we'll hear that all the time at markets. It comes in through emails. So it's, and then the testing with the CSIRO, obviously that was that was a bit of luck. That was a customer who was he was a immunologist. Yes, so studying the immune system and the gut microbiome, and he was a customer at the markets. And he just sort of said, "Oh, you guys you should talk to the CSIRO. They're doing some research around this." And so that's how that all got started. And basically, yeah, it all just kind of it just kind of unfolded in this in that way. And along the way, obviously, it's been bumpy and it's not been smooth sailing, but I feel like we're just getting to the smooth sailing. Not that there's ever smooth sailing, but I feel like it's the smoothest sailing has ever been in a way. Yeah. So
awesome. I love hearing those stories about the customers, because I think especially when you can help a customer have a breakthrough on something that they previously just assumed was unfixable, or it wasn't something that they felt they could talk to people about, or they didn't know who to get advice. And if you can be the product that solves that problem, then the customers are going to stick with you no matter what. And I think that's kind of one of the themes of the growth to date with goodMix and what you've built as being that loyal community of customers around the product. Noting the question on here, I wanted to sort of take this one in two parts. So firstly was around how has the scale of the business unfolded to date? So I know you guys have been in operation for 14 years, but what does that 14 years look like? How have you gotten to this point? And then I guess the second part of that question is, from where we are now, how do you see the business scaling and expanding moving forward?
I guess for me, what's happened is it's taken us this long to figure out how to market it on a scale effectively. So, for a while we were trying to figure it all out. And then about 3 years ago, we figured out what works. And now it's just, we keep running out of money to put into this marketing. If we put money into it, it does return. So for me, it's been about marketing. That's like, it's if you put money in, it sells more. But we're always that ceiling with the marketing. That's my perspective. The boys are more the business heads, so I'll let them answer that.
Well, Jenny, you're not far wrong there. It's for me the big thing was the markets. Markets aren't easy getting up in the morning and being on the front line talking to consumers, because who soaks soggy seeds? I remember when Jenny first introed the soggy seeds to me. I looked at it and I said, I'm not going to like this, but it actually tasted really good. The texture was exceptional. She made it like a Birchal with a smoothie bowl type thing, and I didn't notice at first, but it's I didn't put that what that was doing for me, and it was doing more than a great fecal architecture movement. Poo.
We're not scared of poo. We stand under a giant poo flag.
Yeah, you don't have your little sign.
So
you don't have your sign today, Brad.
My fecal architecture was immaculate. But I also felt light, and I felt a little sharper. And over the years, I get people to do this, take this because of their corporates, and they want to go into meetings sharp, or they're athletes, and they want better performance and they want an edge and stuff like that. So there's a lot of tick boxes it does, gluten-free, good source of protein, that fiber diversity. And like Jeannie said, it was like we had to find who is our target market. Is it just poo problem people? I've got these athletes on it, right? Is it women? But I've got corporate men that won't eat it without going into a call, or a meeting. So, that's when we realized we hit our ceiling in our expertise, and we had some great ads from Ann Stubbs, who unfortunately I tried to get her on this meeting, but she's a very busy person and she's external to the team, but been working this for a long time. And she started breaking things down, like, who is your avatar? Like, have a look at the data, who's searching for your type of stuff. Let's do the low hanging fruit, and then we needed doers in the marketing, and we were doing it ourselves for such a long period of time, and then we outsourced to Gravitate Digital. Exceptional company, amazing team with expertise beyond what we'd ever thought. And we're building funnels, and they're looking at data, like the repeat customer rate you guys are getting is amazing. So just to add on to the second part of the question is, like, we come from the markets and we still want to give that beautiful market service, be on the front line, answer the questions. I mean, Jeannie's always answering the poo problem questions, and but we want to get a little more sophisticated, because the opportunity is to spread this wider. you know, and we've got a great product. We've got some other great products that don't really have the recognition. And, you know, it's like, how do we expand on that? Is there headroom in our domestic retail market? Well, there certainly is, because Howard's tested that. You know, we've tested certain channels to market with his hands behind his back, basically. So, look, I can give you $500 on this channel, but the actual promoter wants to gondola around at the head of the health food store and train up the naturopaths or you know, do all these things. And it does require money, you know, and through these small tests that we've done, we want to go from a bronze sort of promotional activity to something more gold or platinum. You know, recently I was at the Go Vita conference where there's I think they're the largest independent membership health food conglomerate, and hardly anyone wanted to talk to me because we already stock it. We already got the Blend 11. It's selling well. But I was like, come in and have the Bliss Balls. They go, oh, yeah, we've started using those, you know, and we started using this. And, you know, and when I asked them, what do they need? They need, you know, they need training, right? They need the staff are high turned over. They need training. Some of our stuff's, you know, can be unique, or they just need some education. They need some promotional activity. That was one of the biggest feedback that I got, you know, from that. But without going into everything there, it's like there's brand awareness, there's some headroom. I think just with some strategic dollars, very well placed, we can just keep developing and growing and expanding on what a great product does, which is getting repeat business. You know, sometimes people go, oh, it's $50 a bag of cereal. But you talk to one of my customers, they go, oh, it is so worth it. You can just see them sell it for me, you know, at the markets often. So we've got to get that messaging out there, and that is through marketing, and that is through scaling. And, you know, there's opportunities globally, right? Because the gut health issue that we have is epidemic globally, right? Diet-related diseases through the roof. There's so much rubbish food out there, and they're all on every corner, right? And people are confused and they don't know. And, you know, children are getting fed rubbish food. So there's a big educational piece that we want to push out there. I think there's a lot of headroom, and yeah, hopefully I've answered that question 1 and question 2. How do we get here and what from now? And open to you know, particularly on where to from now. You know, Howard has got a really good sense on that himself. So if he wants to add anything to that, then by all means.
Yeah, I think you covered it really well, Brad. But what I'd say has been amazing about the goodMix brand is that it's not a social media brand that's popped up out of nowhere. It's a genuine, I'd call it almost old-fashioned, in that it's got proper relationships with customers that have been built face-to-face in farmers' marketplace over a long period of time. And that's quite unique in terms of an investment opportunity for people, because those relationships are really hard to establish in today's digital type brand startup. And I think the question around where does the growth come in the future, I think Brad and Jeannie have covered some of the revenue streams that we anticipate, but how we're going to get that growth is also extremely important. And that farmers market approach of listening to your customers, spending time with them, and creating products that they cannot do without, as long as the business sticks to that heartland of what's made it successful, it will continue to be successful in the future. That's absolutely not even up for debate. So I think there's huge scalability for the brand, huge headroom still left for Blend 11. The capacity in the manufacturing plant can easily cover a doubling of that growth. So there literally is no bottleneck on the brand. It's all there ready to go. And as Jeannie said, we know what marketing stimulates growth. We just need some dollars to put into it. And I genuinely believe the world's the oyster for the brand.
Yeah, it's interesting hearing you guys talk about the market presence, because I think you know, as a channel, investors might think going through markets maybe is not all that scalable, but it's not just a distribution channel for you guys. It's an opportunity to do customer discovery, to test out the product, to look at new versions of the product, to test out your messaging, to understand your customer archetypes. All of this that you get to do in a very hands-on way by having that physical presence with your customers, that then means when it comes to feeding your marketing funnel and driving your growth activity, you've got all of that hard-earned frontline knowledge from the customer interactions. Like, it's a really cool strategy. And it's interesting as well when you were sort of talking through this this next stage of growth. looks a little bit different to what it does to, you know, like a social media driven business or a new business that's just sort of discovered something and they need to try and keep this viral growth. Because you guys have built in sort of such a sustained and focused way, you're not raising money to hire a bunch of new executives, to build a new factory, to do all these kinds of things that, you know, are higher risk, but often a more common source of a need to raise capital. So can you talk through a little bit more how you do see using the funds raised in this round and how it's going to help you unlock the next stage of growth?
I just want to add on to the market story. Very strategically, in the beginning it was by accident, but very strategically, we have the most incredible team out in the markets. They go from Noosa to Byron Bay, arguably, and everywhere in between, Gold Coast, Brisbane, one of the sought after destinations in the world. So strategically, we're tasting and, you know, showing the brand. We have a giant flag that says the best poos ever, and there's a number 4 there with a big smile and a thumb. And I would say that the markets, I would argue, I'd almost bet a house on it, that we're probably the most photographed markets in the entire history of farmers markets in the globe.
Yeah, everyone's always like, can I take a picture of your flag?
Yeah, and then in that, we strategically teamed up with those partners. They're distributors, they're mums and dads, and some with health backgrounds. Jeannie and I have spent a lot of time with them, training them up. We've got a Facebook group, you know, we do campaigns and promotions with them, so they're highly educated, and we incentivize them as distributors to capture emails, to make sure people have the awareness, to have brochures, you know, and we're affiliated with those, so they want to keep continuing, you know, so they enjoy the spoils of introducing someone that may be from America. You know, we get calls from people. It's like, my friend had this, and how do we get into America? And to Andy, you know, and the US story there that you know that we're growing. So yeah, I just wanted to you made me remind me how important and strategic those markets are, because we're going to have another new product, and it just keeps going and going. And, you know, even as we become more available in stores, the markets are critical. No one's going to get the big 3 kilo bags, you know, sitting on a shelf there ever. You know, it's just going to drive more and more and more business to those people. So we think there's a synergy and a long-term partnership with our markets, and maybe we might open up markets across Australia, you know. So little tip there for anyone wanting to start their own little business. There's an opportunity there to grow with us in that angle. But from here, we want to get a little bit more sophisticated. You know, we want to stretch our outreach. I think there's obviously a P&L strategies on all promotional activities. You know, our online, we can see it, the data's real, you know, and I've always used experts, you know, Brett included, where we can analyze data. We've got AI, we integrate AI in our teams so we can, you know, really see what's working. But there's also the contacts and the networks and the retail opportunity. That's where really Howard's coming in, and international expansion, because what we've got here really well mapped out, let's call it a sequence of a success, a recipe of success to promote. There's no reason why we can't understand a new culture and a new area and start with ones that are similar to ours, people that realize that food's medicine, and we hand over that recipe, you know, and we maintain that recipe, and we protect the brand and the IP and the integrity, and we just transfer that over to other people that want to partner with us in those opportunities, and maybe successfully open up, you know, where we're actually co-packing like what we're doing in America, sourcing locally with a local team. So yeah, like Howard said, the world's our oyster. It's you know, on that, both the online and you know, retail presence. Yeah, I don't know if you want to add a little bit to that, Howard, or Jeannie. It looks like you got something.
Yeah, I think it's, I mean, obviously we're scaling by our own efforts, but also the general awareness and the science that's continually coming out, you know, throughout the world about, you know, the gut-brain axis, the gut-skin axis, the gut-immune axis, how your gut affects every single other system of, you know, of your body. So the awareness, there was no awareness of that when we first started. Now you've got, you know, teenagers on Instagram. They know that their gut affects their skin and causes their pimples. There's, you know, people know now. They had no idea. So that, well, in Australia anyway, the knowledge is pretty good, and it's growing quite quickly. It's a bit slower in some other countries, but it's going to get there, right? Because this stuff spreads. So it's like we're making efforts to scale, but also the awareness is going to help us as well. That's
Yeah, it's awesome, and it's awesome to see the passion that you all have for the product as well. Can you talk a little bit about where your customers come from today? Obviously, the business itself has a sort of physical concentration around Southeast Queensland. You're from just down the road where I grew up in Tweed, so very close to my heart. But where are your customers? Are they mainly in the same geographic area? Are they Australia-wide? Are they global? Where are people coming from today, or where are you sending the product to today, I guess is the better question.
Sure. I think firstly is to break it down by channel. 70% of our business, our income, talking to investors now, comes from online. So we can actually manage what goes out and really manage what comes in, with ROAS, cost of acquisition. There's all these, different metrics and technology that allows us to, effectively spend money where it's working. So I think, that's important to know. About 11% or under 10% is our markets, but let's look at them as our satellites. They're onboarding people to the online, right? We can't discount the power of those. And if we can grow that, it only is going to amplify what Jeannie says is the awareness of things that have come out, what's happening with the gut, so I think that's important. And then the rest comes from our retail and wholesale. Seems to be, since Howard's come on, the biggest growth percentage. And I really don't think we've even scratched the surface. We've definitely tested what works, and now it's just applying some of those same principles as Howard sort of mentioned out, customer first, but in a corporate world, we've got to be on the gondola end. We've got to do some promotional activity, right? So we may not get the margin, but then we start getting some, after the awareness, we start getting sell through when it's not on promotion, because people rely on it. They actually, like what Jeannie said from the onset, breakfast doesn't change too much. And I promise you, if you start eating Blend 11, try and get off it if you eat it for a couple of weeks.
Yeah. Good answer. And when you're looking forward to where you want your customers to come from in this next stage of growth, there's a question on here just asking about the sort of the new market focus or the overseas expansion focus. Are you looking at UK, Canada, Middle East, North America more broadly? How are you thinking about the new customer growth and the use of marketing funds to expand the business?
Look, I think this is probably Howard's domain, but I will just say from my perspective is that there's still so much to do in the domestic market. I think there's a lot of opportunity with some independent retailers, health foods. Let's face it, if there is a bit of education required to you're soaking some seeds and then you're putting it in some yogurt, people just want to sprinkle it on stuff. But so handing that over to the nutritional world, the naturopathic world, which are well represented. I mean, the reason you go to a health food store, because you're actually getting honest, real, qualified advice about what we're eating and what we're not eating. Otherwise you're left at what does the package say and what is it shouting at me, and what's hidden, on the back I may not know. So going to a health food store, I think that is, and it's maybe for all the competitors listening to this, has been a bit of a stealth approach for us. It's actually really hard, so try and do it yourself. We've got 14 years jump on you, yeah, it's I think very strategically keep doing what we know that works. Once we do that and we have that blueprint, I think there's no reason we can't tease some UK, and that there is interest, and we've got a footprint in the US. So I don't think we're flooding those. We'll continue to test those, but it's really about making this blueprint super solid so we can duplicate it within new cultures. I don't know if Howard, if you've got anything to add on that, because I know you're passionate about this.
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head, really, Brad. I think that the beauty of this from an investor's perspective is that there's bags of headroom for the existing products to grow in the existing channels. If you remember nothing about the goodMix opportunity, but you remember that, then that screams loud and clear that there's a high return on investment opportunity for goodMix. If we were saying the alternative, that we've exhausted our current opportunities and we need investment because we need to find white space to grow into, that's risky. However, our use of funds is to keep doing what we've proven works with products that are proven to work in channels that have bags of headroom to growth for growth. Now, that's not to say that over time we'll start to look at other markets, and there's plenty of opportunities for successful brands in Australia to expand, particularly in the health and wellness space, where brand Australia itself, over and above the consumer brand, holds great sway with other populations around the world. But in the short term, in terms of getting a bang for your buck and our use of funds, it will go towards aggressive growth with the existing product portfolio in the existing marketplace. And we believe that that gives a strong, high return on investment strategy for the brand and for the new shareholders.
And how do you guys think about defensibility and, making a product that customers will come back to, even if there are sort of copycat products that enter the market alongside you?
I've spoken to people at markets about pretty much, any competitor. I mean, you can fire anything at me and I can answer it, as far as that goes. And on competitors for Blend 11, as soon as all I say is just Google the reviews. It's like, just Google the reviews. And they go away, they Google it, and they're like, oh yeah, I'll try that. So it's kind of, I mean, to have the level of practitioner support that we now have, over this time, it's going to take someone, quite a while to build that. I mean, there's always going to be competitors for everything.
Look, it may even support a few competitors that come up, support the awareness, right? There's enough for everybody, right? It can only drive more awareness. And without dedication to service, but also to the quality and the ingredients, there is a small percentage that we're going to look for to, we've got a great team in the back office, we've got an operations manager and an amazing team. We're always, trying to source high quality, and that can be challenging at times, and as we gain in volume, we might be able to start working more direct with some farmers and help farmers. So, it's like helping goodMix, there's a flow-on effect. There's many hands that touch our product that we need to recognize, including the people that are growing it and farming it and, watering it. So there is definitely a flow-on effect. And if we keep building those stronger relationships, maybe remove some of the middleman in time, or work closely with our middleman, I think there's, it's hard for competitors to instantly do that. You're better off just buying Blend goodMix, right? If you're sitting on the fence, don't need to invest, just buy us out if you can do a better job.
And another thing is, this never used to happen, but this is happening a lot over the last probably 2 years. As you see people walking past at the markets with their friend, they go, oh, that's a really good brand. And it's like, when I hear that, I'm like, oh, wow, we're a really good brand. That's so exciting. It's like, from the plastic bag rubber band days, when it's like, those guys are weird. What are they doing? So it's like, to be known as a really good brand, that's awesome. So I guess focus on being a really good brand.
Yeah. Can't compete
Sorry,
against
Kirsten,
that the same way. You go, Howard. Yeah.
Just to build on that from a numbers perspective, one of the metrics, a lot of brands talk about having a competitive moat, like a defense around your castle, I guess. But it's very easy to say that. It's very difficult to achieve that. It's also quite difficult to measure it. But one of the measurements that people use is, what is your repeat purchase rate, which basically means how many people buy it once they've tried it for the first time. 10% is considered a relatively good repeat purchase rate in fast-moving consumer goods. goodMix achieved 50% repeat purchase rate in the last quarter leading up to the end of December 2025. So whilst we're not complacent, and we know that a lot of hard work and effort goes into building that repeat purchase rate, I think that gives a really powerful metric to show that anecdotally we believe that it's difficult to replicate and compete against us, but statistically the number of people who come back and buy it again to fuel the growth is a really good indicator of how competitive the product is and how difficult it is to copy.
Yeah, love that. when you're thinking about your sort of growth and distribution strategy, obviously the kind of online 70%, I think you said earlier, is the portion of the business that's coming from online today. That's direct to customer. Are you looking at sort of having a physical presence in stores in more of like a B2B2C type approach? Is that something that you might look at down the line, or are you kind of all in on direct to customer for the time being?
We've actually, been involved in the retail presence for many years now. We have two of the largest health food distributors on board. Paragon have been with us now, albeit they've bought out a few of the distributors along the way, and they're the bigger player. But collectively, maybe 8 years, I think we've been in that distribution channel. Go Vita Warehouse for the last 3 or 4 years. I mentioned them earlier. There's a lot of independents, and we work with a lot of groups together, like Whole Life Pharmacy, and we work direct with them. So like sort of how it says, and to build on it, is that, look, Blend 11 and, maybe the 400 gram is maybe down the back corner, because customers come in and ask for it, but we're not participating in the promotional activity. They need to be at eye level with maybe a few facings. We just haven't had that capital to inject into that. And when we're looking at the markets and it's, we got customers lining up and the online works, we sort of just probably focused in that area. But, through some strategic planning and some experience, there's actually some smart ways to do it. And it's been really enlightening for me to have Howard on board and his experience to show me how that works and how we play in that space. And hence part of the reason why we're here. It's we're here to really expand on what we're doing and again do more of what we know that works. So it's not like we're going to have to chase anyone, but I think the more and more we're seeing with this promotional activity, your likes of Harris Farms are going to knock on your door. Who knows? Coles and Woolworths are going to go, hey, what's these guys doing? There's a real big opportunity when you start, very cleverly putting this promotional activity, because everyone's always watching everyone. And if they're seeing something going flying out the door and watch this video, they're probably going to knock on our door to be a customer as well. Jeannie?
Oh, sorry. I have to always put my hand up, otherwise Brad will keep talking. He does that. So basically, I remember working in a health food store and pharmacy when Vital Greens first came in. There was only one on the shelf. That was it, just one on the shelf in the health food shop. And then they started bringing all these deals where it's like, the store would buy 5, get 1 free, and doing all these deals and stuff. And all of a sudden we had heaps on the shelf and they were selling. And, so I remember watching that brand go from small to huge. You probably know Vital Greens, you've seen it around. And then Nutra Organics, that's another brand that I remember watching do the same thing for years. They just had one product on the shelf. I think it was the greens or the greens plus reds. And Nutra Organics, they're huge now with the collagen and all the different ranges. And so, it takes that incentivizing the stores, free samples to the staff, all that sort of thing that we haven't had budget and we haven't had the know-how to really do, but that's going to be Howard's job and the investor's job. So, the know-how and the money to go with it. So I've seen it happen. Yeah.
Yeah, nice. And I know one of my team did pick up a packet of Blend 11 because she saw it in a health food shop down here in Victoria. So you're already in a bunch of places outside of Southeast Queensland, which is awesome to see. There's a question that's come through around the margins on the product and, how the margins are looking today and how you expect to see the product the product and the business go on to profitability. Now, I know the margins is an area that you guys have been doing a lot of work to bring down the operational costs and be able to produce the product with less labour costs. So I was wondering if you could speak a little bit more to that work that's been done and how it positions you for growth going forward.
Yeah, I'm going to hand that over to Brett. I mean, he quietly sort of said he's got a few shovels fixing a link here and there, but he's very humble. He's actually right across this extensively. So I'm going to give Brett a little bit of a light on you here, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so obviously with all those different channels that we've just talked about, right through from distributors to direct to the shops, online, they're all different margins, of course. It's quite a different story when you're selling direct to someone online versus having to have it go through 2 or 3 hands. So it's anywhere from 30% to low 70s through those channels. So you're looking at an average of, 50. And, what has helped, obviously, ingredients, like everything else in the last 12 to 18 months, have gone up. You talk to anybody, talk to builders, and all their materials have gone up. Ingredients are the same. This is getting back to talking about competitors and that. We've spent years working with suppliers on relationships with the right suppliers, because ingredients have a limited supply to everybody. And you have to shore up, those relationships so that you have access to those ingredients. So part of that is also, it's a bit, again, like how much money we can put into the marketing. It's a bit the same with the ingredients. Like sometimes we're offered much better deals if you can take 4 pallets, and we just fall off our chair and go, 4 pallets, man, that's like tons. We just can't do it. So normally, I think a lot of those suppliers would say, forget it. But we've been with them for so long that, they look after us that way. So there's a lot of room with our margins when we start looking, like Brad said, direct to farmers and things like that. We definitely have helped with the overheads with the new facility and the way we've set that up. That's shown straight away that the labour costs per unit have dropped. I think it was 30%. So there's heaps more room with margins as we are able to invest in, ingredients on a bigger scale, and really lean on those relationships that we've spent years building, and actually, maybe people are coming to us for the ingredients at the end of the day once we get going. So there's heaps of room in the margins for that.
And you do have, like, you've invested to sort of create this capacity to be able to deliver greater production and to be able to meet this extra demand. Can you talk a little bit more about, like, what are, I guess, the upper limit constraints of the current capacity that you have? Assuming after this cap raise you're wildly successful, when do you have to do the next big investment to step up the capacity to generate more product?
I'm not going to put an exact number on it, but I think personally we can produce 3 times more than we're producing now, with not even much more of the team on the ground. They're eager for more work already. So we've built that in when we designed the facility in terms of storage space and production capacity.
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome to hear, because from an investor perspective, investing now means you get the benefit of that investment that the team has made previously to increase that capacity.
Brad, there's no change to that.
Yeah. Were you going to jump in there as well, Brad?
Yeah, look, I was probably just going to defer to Howard, but look, I just to have some input on me is the there's plenty of room to grow. It's like, if all of a sudden people are watching this webinar and we get a flood of investment, we will know how to handle that. We already know how we're going to handle the minimum raise. And to be honest, if you're watching this video, we're I don't know where you might be watching it. We're just over halfway with only 3 or 4 days to go. So we may not be able to raise with this level of investment at now. And maybe it was because people are too busy. They're a little bit concerned about the current economics. For whatever reason it is, that's why we're doing this call. And if you're watching this, we're happy to take a call anytime post this. But to answer your question, I think it depends what we raise, if we do raise. And then strategically how we move forward. If we build that blueprint pretty quickly, it might open up to international markets. Like I said, we've got a footprint in the US. There just needs to be some capital expenditure, some promotional activity. We're already stocking some shelves in the retail market there and getting ready for the website to go live again. There was a short delay with some certifications. They're quite litigious in America. But also, Andy's a one-man band, and we're working with a co-packer there. So, very quickly we may, if the investment comes in, we'll start, maybe depending on the level, we'll look at other channels. But for me, even if we don't raise our minimum, we've got the team, we've got the know-how. We're just going to have to keep chipping away small, and maybe this whole exercise has been great PR. And a few of you sharks out there are watching us to swoop in. We don't need you to swoop in. We need you to partner with us.
Yeah. Great sentiment. So we're getting towards the end of the time for this webinar. So I've just cleared the questions that we have had come through because we've answered them all in the discussion. If anyone has any questions, or if you feel that we haven't quite covered off the detail that you were looking for, now's the time to drop your questions in the Q&A box. But I wonder if you guys might mind just sort of talking through. I know we've covered it in bits and pieces, but the use of funds. So what are you hoping to raise in this offer, and how will that help you fuel the next stage of growth for the business?
Yeah, good. I'm gonna take Jeannie's advice and take a step back. I might hand this one to Howard. I like to talk a lot. Oh, you're a speaker, Howard. You're on mute.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, I think probably one of the most significant ways to look at the use of funds is to look at what we don't need to spend the money on first, because we're quite unique in our stage of capital raise, that we don't need to spend the money on factory capacity expansion, as Brett's already covered. We also don't need to spend the money on new exec hires. We feel we've got the team in place. So all of that relatively high margin product sales will flow straight to the bottom line. It's not going to get absorbed by new management hires. And finally, we don't need to spend the money on R&D, significant product experimentation, or marketing strategy experimentation. Those three items of factory, exec team, and R&D product experimentation are the three biggest bottomless holes that new money can get poured into for a small business. None of that needs to be done for goodMix. All those hard yards have been done. So where the money will be going is on proven marketing strategies that we know with a high level of confidence, for every $1 we spend on that marketing, we get $2 back in revenue. And we've proven that over the last 3 years with the marketing strategy. So to answer your question, Kirsten, the vast majority of the raised funds are going to be pointed at consumers to build awareness, to build understanding of the brand, to capitalize on the fact that 50% of people who try it once come back and buy it again. And from there, when we compound that growth month on month, year on year, that's where we believe the business can really accelerate its trajectory. So we think that's a hugely positive story for new investors to come in, that the money is going to be spent on high return on investment activities and not sunk into costly items, which are often trip hazards for growing businesses.
Yeah, it's such a strong point, and thanks, Howard, for talking through that. I think it's one of the things that makes this offer so compelling is the work that you've done beforehand and the clarity that you have as a team around how this raise is going to fuel your growth going forward. So we haven't had any more questions come through, so I might just pause. I might just ask you all one final thing to finish up, which is around the strength of your customer community. So I know I've sort of asked a lot of questions about customer on the call today. Hopefully everyone can see the real connection that the team here have with their customers, the people they serve, the way that this product actually changes people's lives. And it's not just a nice, fluffy, nice to have. It's actually the core of the business growth strategy, is continuing to serve these customers really well and drive those repeat purchases and that word of mouth growth as well. So maybe just one final question. What's one of your favorite customer stories that have come from the first 14 years of goodMix's history, and what would you love to see more of for your customers in the next 14 years?
Well, I've got a few. There's one that stands out for me, Jenny, but I would like for you to close the seminar, the webinar with yours. Well, mine's a bit of a tearjerker.
Well, my favorite probably customer testimony over the years, I think came from a lady who, yeah, there's been quite a few like long paragraph kind of testimonials, but yeah, there's two I can think of off the top of my head, which I nearly cried. It was like one, a lady had endometriosis on her bowel, and it had just, spent her whole life bloated, looking pregnant, feeling gross and constipated, and and she just said the blend lemon has helped her so much, and she's cried at the markets talking to us, I think both of us, and it's just changed her life. I can't remember exactly what she said, but it was a huge long testimonial, and she will stand there at the markets and tell people when they come up how good the product is and stuff. So that was an amazing one to receive back probably 10 years ago now. And then another one, a lady she just thought, man, I've tried everything. I've tried every single product out there. What's this? I'll spend the $27, whatever it was at the time, and I'll try a bag of it. And she was like, not expecting results, but she was like, man, I started to poo, and then just kept pooing. And we get it all the time. Like there's just, so many different ones. They all kind of blur into.
There's literally thousands of them. You just have to Google Blend 11 reviews.
Jump online and read it. There's heaps of them.
My one is, and it is on the YouTube, there's a lady that if you go to our YouTube channel and have a look, there's a bunch of testimonials there, but her son had awful trouble, and he couldn't eat. It's got that bad, and when he did, he was bringing up fecal matter. He just wasn't able to eat, and you could see how distraught she was. And she saw the poo flag one day, and like everyone else, it drawed him over. And she said, "I've got nothing to lose, and try it." And within a couple of bowls, everything settled down for him. Now, and we don't know exactly what it does, but Jeannie's got a bit of an idea what might have happened for him. But the relief on that mother's face in all her tears for what this product did has put a fifth of my life and Jeannie's life, let's call it, to every weekend, every day nearly, work in the business and the markets, and grow it with Jeannie's capital, my capital, her parents, my effort. And you can go and have a look at the balance sheet and see who's lent money to this business. And it's those sort of feedback that we have, like that lady and like what Jeannie says, has really helped keep driving us to keep doing it. And there's been a significant tax for that. If you can imagine 14 years nearly having to work 7 days a week, our own personal family members miss out on mum and dad, and it's the testimonials that have really, really driven, us to where points we might go, oh, this is hard. The big guys are going to wipe us out one day, and tap out. And we stayed true. And maybe time to start working a bit smarter, allow people to come in, have a smaller piece of the pie, that's out there, and that's the new shareholders and investors that have an opportunity to allow us to keep doing what we do.
Thank you guys. That was a super powerful way to wrap up the webinar. So really appreciate it. Really appreciate all of you joining us as well, and for the thoughtful questions. Jeannie, Brad, Howard, Brett, thank you so much for taking the time to give investors this second opportunity to pepper you all with questions. I'm sure it's been really, really valuable for those who are here. For anyone who had to leave early or who has registered but not been able to join us, we will share a copy of the recording. If you didn't get to see the last webinar with the team as well, and you would like a copy of that, you can jump on over to the goodMix profile page on the Birchal website, or just drop us a note and we can send it through to you. The goodMix offer is open for another couple of days, so it closes on Thursday evening, East Coast Australia time. So if you have not already, jump on there. Feel free to have a look through the offer document and the other materials on there. And if you're so inclined, you can do your investment through the Birchal platform. So thank you so much to everyone for joining us, and wishing you a lovely rest of your day.
Thanks, Kirsten.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.